All right, listeners, my next guest is a leadership expert, and it's my honor to have her here. She has a master's in business administration, a master's in nursing. She's the founder of Leadership Above the Grind Mentoring and Coaching Academy and has her own podcast every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Central called Coffee with Rhonda. It's my honor to present Rhonda Williams. Rhonda, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Yes, so I would like to jump right into it. Um, you saw the video with Draymond Green and Jordan Poole in practice, correct?
Yes, I did see the video.
And okay, so Draymond Green is unquestionably one of the leaders of the team. Jordan Poole is not. He's a role player. What would you say Draymond Green displayed from the view of a leader in that instance?
It's a great question. And I think the first thing I like to do in situations like these is approach it from a human perspective. So the first thing he displayed to us is that he's human, right? Mm-hmm. We all make mistakes. Those things happen. My mistake may not be as egregious as walking over, hauling off, and punching somebody in the face. However, it still might be a mistake. So I think that's the first and important thing. The second thing is, in that moment, he was clearly caught up in something else happening inside of him. He wasn't thinking from the perspective of a leader. And so I think that's important to note. There's a gap between where you see him on the sideline sort of processing what's happening and thinking about everything, between that and the moment he walked over and punched him. That gap is what I like to call the dichotomy of the leading edge, right? At the point that you're ready to start walking over, something is happening. And at that point, you have two choices. You can either proceed with your with the action and the path that you're on, or you can pause for a moment, sort of step back, see the situation differently. In that instance, he did not do that. What that tells me is he may not have developed the habit of these really strong, solid leadership practices and principles. He's considered a leader because of who he is, his production on the field. But in terms of his mental and emotional maturity, is he really a leader? So those are some of the things that I thought about as I looked at that situation.
That's very interesting. There's some multiple aspects to this entire story. And you gave us some great insight into the mind of a leader and what you think about what transpired and what may have been going on with him internally. Now, aside from that, this whole situation is only public because somebody leaked the video. The organization reportedly is very upset about this and is supposedly exploring all options, including legal ones, to find the leak. What do you think that says about the leadership of the organization?
That is something I think that we're all struggling with today. So again, always approaching this from first seeking understanding. I think when we seek to understand the actions of others and what might be happening, why they might be going in that direction, it tampers our judgment of them. So the first thing is, from an organizational perspective, particularly a high-profile sports organization, there are certain things that are there are certain things they expect to keep in-house, right? The locker room chatter and banter. What happens on practice day, right? What happens sometimes between teammates. They expect for these things to be kept out of the public eye because they know it can be inflammatory, it can cause further tensions in the team, and all of that, right? So from that perspective, you sort of get that they want to protect the sanctity of those spaces, right? Mm-hmm. Having said that, I think it's absolutely essential that every organization understand that this is the year 2022. Everybody has a camera, everybody has a phone, and your organization is not exempt from that. If I understand that, even with my desire to be that there are some protected spaces, then I shift a bit in terms of from trying to 100% prevent it from happening to what happens when it does happen. What then is my approach? Is my approach to punish? Is my approach to hold someone accountable? Or is my approach to say, okay, this was a moment that wasn't the best for our team and our organization. How do we get back to who we are as a team? How do we reestablish trust in those spaces? Because now, how is the next person going to trust that when they say something in the locker room that should be just between us or on the court, it's not going to end up on ESPN, right? So I think the what it says about the leaders is, number one, they haven't fully embraced the concept of today you should expect things to get out there. But even more importantly, and this also goes to Draymond and his role as a leader, more importantly is, what do you do next? Mistakes happen. Things happen. What do you do next that you can then demonstrate your ability to lead in terms of crisis and that sort of thing? I think that's the more important piece for them, is how do they approach this moving forward, not from a punitive perspective, but from a building perspective.
That's very interesting. And we don't have a lot of time left, but I do want to ask you one more question. In your experience, how would you reestablish trust in a scenario where things got volatile amongst, the people who work under you?
So there's two aspects of this. It is, what have you done up to now? And then there's building on that, reminding that, replenishing that, refocusing on that so that you can grow going forward. For instance, if in the past you've done nothing to build trust as a leader of as the organization, you haven't taught them what trust actually means. You haven't established ground rules in terms of, hey guys, this is what we expect. This is who we are. Things are going to be said. How are we as a team going to handle that? If you have not done any of that in the past, now's a perfect time to start. If you have had those conversations, if you built those foundations, now you can build on them. Now you can take people back to, okay, all right, this got a bit out of hand. There was a leak. Let's go back to what we said we would do. Let's go back to how we hold each other accountable in situations like this. And now, how do we move forward together as a team? So the mistake that leaders and organizations often make is they choose this top-down approach. We often call it command and control. I'm in command, and here's what it's going to be, and this is how we move forward. No, not today. That doesn't work well today. Today, your best approach is to say to everybody, all right, let's come together. Let's talk about it. Let's reestablish the vision. Let's reestablish our expectations. What happens when somebody violates our expectations? Come up with those decisions as a team, and it's much more impactful, and it's much more likely to sustain you moving forward, because all of a sudden, you are not telling people what to do. They are telling you what they think they should be doing as a team. And in that case, then they have greater ownership for making it happen.
That's very great insight. Now, thank you for joining me for the interview today. You can catch Rhonda Williams again Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. on the Coffee with Rhonda show. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It was a great conversation. My pleasure being here.
Oh, yes. All right.